Welcome to What's the Scenario with PLRB, where we explore claims and coverage scenarios relevant to insurance professionals. I'm Brennan McLaughlin.
I'm Mike Broad.
I'm Tim Havler.
And I'm Michelle Hunter.
Yay, Michelle's back.
All right, Tim, what's the scenario?
A bank robber was
Ooh.
through the neighborhood in a high-speed chase from the police. He ended up hopping the curb by our insured's home, smashing into a tree on the insured's premises. This, in turn, caused a large limb to fall down onto some power lines. The result was that the insured's home sustained a power surge.
Oh.
The utility company is going to fix up the lines, but the insured is claiming electrical damage to some items in his house. He has sustained damage to his refrigerator, and specifically the ice maker, a toaster, and the TV, all from the surge of electricity. Adjuster sees the insured had a standard ISO HO00030511. Question: is there coverage for these household items under that form?
Fascinating scenario this time, Tim. Kudos.
And before we get into our coverage analysis, we have brand new trivia audience participants today.
Yay.
Michelle and Brennan, we're going to see how you guys do with this one. I only have one question
Excellent
today.
at trivia, so be cautious, Tim. He's a ringer.
Mike got the last one quickly.
Well, we'll see.
So the other two need to jump in if you know the answer.
All right.
This 1967 American film, starring Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway as the title characters, follows the exploits of bank robbers in the Depression-era South.
Bonnie and Clyde.
Got it.
Yay!
Yay!
All right.
I was trying to think of the two names, but then you beat me to it, but that's it. Wow.
Well,
2 for 2.
Yep.
Mike, you know your cinema history. I remember you were talking about The Godfather.
And his music history, too.
Mike's a man of many talents and much wisdom and knowledge.
I appreciate that, Tim. It's so rarely said, so...
well, must be acknowledged.
Thank you.
Okay, so we got a coverage scenario here.
Right.
Back to the classic property coverage scenarios. Everyone loves those.
Uh-huh.
And the insured had some things that got damaged by a power surge. And a good first question always to ask is, wait a minute, do we have covered property?
Right.
And if so, which bucket? Coverage A, B, C, or D? And the three items, to refresh your memory, are a refrigerator, a toaster, and a TV. Anyone wants to throw out some thoughts?
Coverage A is supposed to be for the dwelling, right? So these things would have to be permanently attached to the realty, which maybe only the fridge comes close. So I'm looking towards C would be my guess, sir.
Good. Yes.
If I've got my fridge in the backyard and I'm using it as a shed, can I put it under B?
Shed in the back? Or refrigerator in the shed?
If I've just thrown my refrigerator in the backyard.
Using the fridge. It's a huge walk-in refrigerator that he's using as a shed.
Oh, a walk-in refrigerator.
Right.
Oh. Ooh. Okay, so let's go. What's the... I remember talking to an adjuster a long time ago, and they told me that what they taught him when he started was take the house, flip it upside down, shake, see what falls out.
There you
go. That's not a bad rule of thumb. But as an attorney, I actually need to be a little bit more technical in the legal sense, and there is case law on this, so we can go through the three factors, coverage A versus C. Factor number 1, actual physical annexation to the property. Factor number 2, application or adaptation to the use or purpose to which the realty is devoted. Factor 3, and this is an important one, probably the most important of the three, intention or lack thereof to make it a permanent installation.
I'll tell you, Tim, the only one I understood was number 3. Number 1 and 2. Say what to who? Went right over
And
my head.
you know what? A question I like to ask myself is, let's just assume that they moved. They bought a new house 30 miles away. They got a new job. They wanted to move. What would they be likely to take with them, and what would they be likely to leave behind? So let's go back to our 3 items now.
And they
Toaster.
might not all fall under the same coverage, right, Tim?
Right,
They
right.
might be
Yep,
different. It's not
absolutely.
like these 3 things are all necessarily under one umbrella of coverage. It might be like all unique to its own purpose.
Exactly right. So let's do them one at a time. And we'll start with the toaster, which I'm just going to answer myself because I can't imagine a toaster possibly being coverage A. Okay.
All right.
That's
So
fair.
no one wants to fight me on that one?
Nope, that's
Okay,
fair.
good.
No, no.
Now we'll get to the TV next.
Mm.
Say almost certainly coverage C, unless you have some sort of wall, maybe not even wall mount, but like truly built into the wall. Most TVs are going to be able to take in and out of there pretty easily. So again, coverage C.
Yep.
And
TVs are pretty mobile now, don't you agree? I think they are.
TVs,
Pretty much.
Yeah.
yeah, things change so fast. I haven't bought a
Yeah, you move
TV in
them around.
15 years.
I mean, if
Mhm.
you've got a TV that's so big it's got to be mounted into the wall, you're probably going to want to take that when you move anyway. So,
Mm-hmm.
Fair point. And the first
But it,
2 factors have to do with how how the degree of attachment. Is it really bolted on where it's not coming off, or have you just, a couple screws here and there? It can easily be taken. But like
makes
I said,
sense.
probably coverage C, and then the third item, like Mike said, this is the hard one, the refrigerator. And this one has an ice maker, so it's probably hooked into the plumbing somehow. Not going to come out quite so easily.
And you're probably, to Michelle's point, when you move, I've moved a couple times, never taken my fridge because people that are moving in kind of want that appliance here.
I've also
Whoever takes a refrigerator? I
Yeah,
don't
never
ever
taken my
remember
fridge
doing that moving.
because it
No.
fits so perfectly in that little
exactly.
spot where it
Yeah.
goes next to the sink.
Right.
So I think that's an important factor to take into consideration. It's could argue it's coverage A that way. Now, Brendan, what was your question about the walk-in?
It's a shed out in his backyard.
oh, I
Basement.
was making a joke. I was making a joke that I was going to take my fridge and put it in the backyard and use it as a shed.
Ah,
All coverage
Got it.
See,
B.
I agree with Brennan there. I think that could be at least giving the policyholder the benefit of the doubt. If I found that he walked in there and had like a little mini man cave and or stored his lawnmower in there and it wasn't plugged into otherwise to electricity, other than maybe he'd like to keep it at a cool, well, let's say 55 for those hot summer days when you want to relax after mowing. I would say you have at least an argument, Tim, that you could say that's an appurtenant structure covered under B.
there you go. Coverage B.
Mhm.
Sounds like that's a permanent part of the realty, and that's
There
not
you
going
go.
anywhere.
So, Brennan, it was a good joke, but I think you're heading in the right direction there, buddy. I'm on part B with you.
Thanks, Mike. And
You're welcome.
as for the coverage A part, I've seen them where these fridges, especially the high end ones, sometimes it's got a front that looks just like the cabinets around
Oh
it.
yeah,
Mhm.
good point.
Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
excellent point. Yeah, you don't want to take that away from the nice matches you got.
Yeah. Would that turn into a matching issue, or what would you have to even do with
Would that
that?
be
I
a
guess they wouldn't
coverage
try to
A
take
now?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
So the fridge potentially could be under coverage A, B, and C. We found in this
Right?
potentially.
Depending how extensively it is affixed.
But I'm going to simplify for the sake of the rest
Oh.
of the discussion. We're going to say these are all coverage C.
All right,
Okay.
I won't argue.
Hmm.
Could it also be coverage D if I used it as another property that I was staying in temporarily while my home was being repaired? So let's put it under each coverage.
We're
Tim.
putting everything under C because I need to narrow
All right.
and move.
All right.
Okay.
Yes, sir. It's narrow
Okay.
and move.
Coverage
All right.
C, named peril under the base homeowners form. So we need to find one of those 16 or 17 perils that apply. But,
I have one.
well, before we get to the actual
Ah.
perils,
Yes.
what about the fact that there's so many different things going on here? We had the bank robber who drove his
Right.
car into a tree, which then fell on the power lines, which then caused an electrical surge in the building. There's multiple causes here.
Here,
Yes.
here.
So how are we going to handle that under coverage C? What's the framework that we look at?
Is it concurrent cause? Is it proximate cause? What is C again?
It's definitely not anti-concurrent cause because those are
Okay.
the Section 1 exclusions. So technically it is proximate cause,
Okay.
but I would venture to guess that most adjusters would give the insured the benefit of the doubt. If any named peril played some sort of significant role in bringing about the loss, maybe we're not going to look so closely if it's the proximate cause. You could argue that, but in my experience, the way adjusters have come to me, it seems like they're looking for coverage, and in the same way that the insurance company can pick an exclusion, any exclusion, they would say, well, then the insured can pick. So again, it just has to be some non-trivial, meaningful factor. Let's just start picking perils now. Can
Okay.
we find
Yep.
one that we think applies here?
Malicious mischief.
Oh,
The
Mike's
robber
favorite,
purposely
vandalism,
drove into the
malicious
tree, which
mischief.
purposely slammed down into the property, purposely damaged the electrical line. He all planned it out. It was malicious mischief all the way.
I'd say worth considering.
All right, thank you.
He didn't intend to cause the power surge, obviously,
Well,
but
how do you know? Have
sometimes
you
you'll
interviewed
convince
him
the court.
carefully, Tim, to know what his intentions were?
Sometimes you'll convince the court that if someone does something that's so extremely reckless, then we can call that vandalism, even if they didn't specifically intend the damage. The problem here is you have so many steps between the driver and then da 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 da, and then the power surge. Maybe that's too far removed from his original recklessness, but worth considering, Mike. I think
Thank
there's
you.
stronger alternatives.
I think that's the first time you've ever considered malicious mischief in our podcast
Usually
career.
I
So
shut you
thank
down
you.
pretty quick.
Right. So I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know. You know what, Tim? What are the named perils in C?
Oh,
Help
you
me
know
out,
what?
brother.
Let's crank through them real quick.
I know you have
Yeah.
that policy in your pocket, so yeah, let's
Fire,
check this out.
lightning, no.
All right.
Windstorm,
Yeah.
hail, no.
Maybe no.
Explosion, no. Riot,
Yes.
civil commotion, no. Aircraft,
Yes.
no. Vehicles, maybe. We'll come back to that.
Yes.
Smoke, no. Vandalism,
No.
we already talked about. Theft, no. Falling objects.
Aha.
That's
Ooh, the tree.
Tree
Okay.
limb.
This
All
peril
right.
does not include loss to property contained in a building unless the roof or outside wall of the building is first damaged by a falling object.
Oh, rats.
Oh.
This is
That's
for
out.
like a meteorite or something like that
Hmm.
going through the.
Okay.
So that's out. Weight of ice, snow, or sleet. No.
Mhm.
Accidental discharge of water. No. Freezing. No.
Yeah, no.
Sudden and accidental damage from artificially generated electrical current.
Well, hey
Oh,
now.
Oh, there we
hello.
go. But again, we got to keep reading.
Oh,
This bill
Okay.
does not include loss to tubes, transistors, electronic components, or circuitry that is part of appliances, fixtures, computers, home entertainment units, or other types of electronic apparatus. Ooh, that's a problem.
Yeah.
You almost wonder what could be covered.
yeah. That's
You're
what I
excluding
was-
With all those, yeah.
components.
Exception.
Yeah, everything has electrical components that runs with
That
electricity.
well, electronic as opposed to electric means things like microprocessors, computer chips.
Okay.
So 20 years ago, that was your PC, and that's about it. But now, it's almost every. I bet that toaster might have a
Right.
chip in there somewhere. So this is
Exactly.
kind of a problem. Technically, the electronic components are excluded. The adjuster can maybe see if you can isolate the repair costs, or if that chip is such a de minimis to the value of the whole thing, then maybe you could just replace the whole thing. But going back to the vehicles, I think that's going to be the best one here.
Right.
The nice thing about the vehicles peril, we don't have to keep reading because it's one word. It just says
Oh.
vehicles.
Oh, all right. That's easy.
And here we
Okay.
clearly had a vehicle accident, which was a integral part in the chain of events. There's no limitations on it. So I think all those items could be covered in full under the vehicles peril.
Yes, if you're getting a vehicle causing property damage to your house, you're probably in a probably a fortuitous situation.
Oh, sure. Someone hits a
Something's
brick
gone
wall.
wrong.
Yeah, you're right. Now let's put a quick twist on that. What if we got
Ooh.
insured is driving and hit the
Ooh, still a
barrel.
vehicle, unless it's intentional. Still vehicle damage, right?
Exactly. Still vehicle damage. Because remember, all that peril says is vehicles. No, if he did it intentionally, well,
Expected or intended.
I'd
I
probably
always
know
hated that tree, Tim, and I was in an argument with my significant other,
that.
and I said, I'm done with it. I'm taking that tree out right
There,
now.
there you go.
Right.
Okay, now I think you got, you got the intentional loss exclusion.
But
You
that'd
have
probably only
innocent
be for the.
co-insured issues now because
Ooh.
the wife didn't do anything.
She had
So you're going to
nothing to
want
do
to
What do
with
you
see
mean
if
she
it,
didn't
Ellie.
do anything? She upset me, so she did plenty, Tim.
She's the reason you drove like that to
Right.
begin with.
so you'd want to see if the policy excludes coverage for all insureds or the insured who
Very
caused the
good.
loss. But yeah,
And my intent was only to take out the tree. I didn't want to damage my TV. Come on, you kidding me?
Or the toaster, or the
Or
refrigerator.
my beloved beer refrigerator. Yes, no way.
okay, good discussion. That's all we
Yeah.
got for today.
Well, wait a minute. There's
Huh?
one more.
Oh,
What about the tree? That thing going to be
oh,
covered?
okay.
Aha.
I'm gonna need to consult my policy because, as we know, trees under the homeowner's policy, additional coverage, but very limited list of perils.
All right.
So let's see what we got. Additional coverages, trees, shrubs, and other plants.
Yes.
Ugh. 7 perils. Fire, lightning, no. Explosion, no. Riot or civil commotion, no.
Aha. Oh,
Aircraft, no. Vehicles not owned or operated by a resident of the resident's premises.
Cool.
Hey,
Oh, we got it now. So if the bank
Ooh.
robber did it, then that tree can be covered. But if the insured did it, then definitely not.
Ouch.
Unless the robber lived in our house. But we didn't cover that yet in this scenario.
That wasn't in our fact pattern,
Right,
but
exactly.
what if?
I think, Mike, you should be a law school professor and just spin these hypos on and on.
You didn't ask that question. Where did that person live?
The
See,
master
Tim,
of the
you didn't know.
Socratic method.
Right.
so Tim, what can we take away from this scenario?
To recap, vehicle drives into tree on insured's premises, felling the tree onto power lines, causing a power surge to various personal property in the insured's home. Named peril 4, artificially generated electrical current in modern ISO forms applies but does not include damage to electronic components. This peril is limited in scope. However, it would be reasonable to argue that the vehicle's peril applies independently with no restriction on electronic components, so the coverage C items could probably still be covered. And finally, Mike, where can an
Yes.
adjuster go to learn more?
Well, of course, Tim, we can head out to plrb.org, do a little coverage research. You're going to find stuff on power surges that damage appliances. That was one of the coverage questions out there. You can find stuff about artificially generated electrical current under one of the policy, I think, is that an annotation, HO 77 or a
Yes.
call out? Okay, that would be cool. And this scenario that we're talking about, Tim, is even in there. Does additional coverage apply to trees struck by insured vehicle after collision? There it is. And you could also, I'm sure, find information on malicious mischief, even though that's not in our official show notes when you post these. But Brendan, are you going to post these wonderful policy or PLRB informational stuff into the show notes?
Yes. And there you'll also find a recap of the key points from this episode and links to our social media. Don't forget to subscribe and rate us, and please give us a call at 630-509-8704 and leave a voicemail to share your adjuster story. See you next time.
Hey, Brendan, have we had a phone call yet?
Nothing yet.
Right. I'm going to ask every week till we get a phone call. People out there, call in.
The views and opinions expressed in this resource are those of the individual speaker and not necessarily those of the Property and Liability Resource Bureau, its membership, or any organization with which the presenter is employed or affiliated. The information, ideas, and opinions are presented as information only and not as legal advice or offers of representation. Individual policy language and state laws vary, and listeners should rely on guidance from their companies